These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. This episode of the Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by Defend Security Cameras. So Hemingway would be one of the people that you'd want to sit down and have a cocktail with.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like you sit down, smoke a cigar with that guy and just be like, what's your thought process? Like, what's your vision? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, how do you view the world? How do you view yourself? How do you view society?
I don't know if I would even ask questions that were that pointed. I think you'd just want to just talk to the man and you'd kind of glean some of that. But very interesting guy. And I'm a fan of his work, a lot of it, not all of it. But I think his best stuff, man, his very best stuff are his short stories. Mm-hmm. He's got a bunch of brilliant pieces that are 2 or 3 pages long. Really incredible. And it's so much harder to write something in a smaller space. Mm-hmm. You look at and I pick on Moby Dick all the time, but Herman Melville is getting paid by the word. There's a reason that book is over 1,000 pages long, and it's great. It's a great work, but we don't need all those words. Mm-hmm. There's a few of those that we could have cut out of there. And if you break it down and make it smaller and smaller and smaller, then you just lose all the fluff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to stay captivated when it feels like it's just drawing on a little bit.
Yeah. What were you up to today?
We were sorting fat cattle for harvest. They'll be butchered tomorrow, and then they'll hang and they'll go out to customers.
What makes a cow a fat cow?
So any of our steers that are right now, we're a grass-fed program, as you know, grass-finished program, and so they're approximately 2 years old. That ideally, when depending on the sex, whether they're steers or heifers, they're probably 13 to 1,500 pounds. Usually grass-fed cattle are a fuzz lighter, so 13 to 1,400 pounds. And when they reach that, it's kind of when they're optimal gain before they start like plateauing or declining. So
I think summer is a great time of year to kill cattle. Mm-hmm. You know, they're eating, especially what we're talking about, which is cattle that are living the way that cattle should and eating grass and forbs and sedges and all the wildflowers and stuff that they do. I think it makes a big difference. And I know it takes time, like more time than what most folks think for a diet to actually change the flavor of the meat. But right now they've been on green grass for several months. Makes a difference. Yeah,
they're slick haired. They look great, and I mean, we've had a great grass year, even with the lack of rain, from what I'm understanding from the locals. It wasn't our snowpack usual year. We didn't have as much rain as anticipated, but that grass has been coming as strong, and I'm happy with how they look right now.
Our grass is crazy tall right now.
Yes.
So one of the tallest grasses that I have right here is Basin Wild Rye, and it'll get 7-8 feet tall by the end of summer. But right now, all of the other grasses are competing with it, like neck and neck, and it's pretty cool. We've got meadow foxtail that's 4 feet tall right now, here in the middle of June. Sweet, I'll take it.
Yeah, when I first showed up, I thought it was Timothy.
Really?
Man, there's a lot of Timothy out here. And then I looked, I was like, oh no, that's meadow foxtail, my bad.
Yeah, people freaked out when that stuff started to show up in Wallowa County, and the cattle don't love it, and it can really take over a pasture. But the tonnage that you get off of it is incredible. And when the cattle figure out how to eat it, they do pretty well on it.
I mean, you can always supplement with a protein source if you need to through the winter, as you well know. But there's a pile of it, even all that. There's brome, and what else did I see out there? Unfortunately, I saw some ventonata the other day, and I was like, okay, how do we battle this, financially, how we can? And
good luck.
Yeah, it's just, if there wasn't a hurdle, it wouldn't be fun, I guess.
I was blissfully unaware of ventonata for a long time, and then my dad hooked me up by showing me what it looked like, and now I see it everywhere.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. Like, once you know what it looks like, it's like catches your eye, and you're like, dang it.
And the wind just hits it different. Like, if there's a little bit of wind, like there is this afternoon, you just can't help but notice it. Just something about the way that the wind kind of makes it shimmer and wave as it goes through there. It's like so easy to see from a mile away on a hillside. African shortgrass, is that the other name for it?
I'm not sure on that. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but just another gnarly annual grass. And I don't know. I wonder if this century-long weed war, like, are we ever going to get ahead of it? Is it going to win? Like, what does that look like for the future of agriculture and wildlife on this rangeland? As we get more and more noxious weeds moving around that are resistant to chemical and all this other stuff.
I believe that we always have to battle it. Like, will we win? Will it win? I don't have an answer for that, but I think we should always try. I mean, you look at the South Texas with the mesquite, right? I mean, it used to be grass plains, and then the mesquite beans started creeping forward with cattle drives, and now those guys, like, it's part of their annual budget is how much mesquite can we remove?
Oh, really? So those early cattle drives were moving mesquite around.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at the old photos from the 1800s and it shows Texas and it's just grassland, beautiful. And you can go sit in that same spot and you can't see 50 yards because the mesquite's so thick. And when they were bringing those cattle up from Mexico, they brought the mesquite beans with them, and so when they were, go in the bathroom on the cattle drives, obviously planting those mesquite trees, and then it just kept crawling forward. And I mean, you look back in the day and it was bare plains, and now, like, it's on every operation is how many acres of mesquite are we going to take out this year, knowing that it's a never-ending process. You can just sit there and work it like clockwork and know that in 10 years you're going to be back in that same pasture pulling mesquite again. I'm
amazed at how resilient that some of that real dry country is, though, because it'll get really choked in with mesquite and cedar and some other stuff, and they'll go through with a dozer and rip it out and windrow all that stuff and burn it, and it looks like a scrabbled up rock yard, and you think, man, this is done forever. But it comes back. In that real drouthy country, it still comes back. It just amazes me.
Mm-hmm. We had some wildfires in Nevada, and it burned quite a bit of that juniper and cedar, and I mean, just smoked it down. And that next spring, there was water running that I'm sure hadn't ran in 20, 30 years or more.
Oh, really?
And so we had water everywhere. Like, oh, this is exactly what this country needed. It should have burned another 50,000 acres. And it was probably one of the best grass years we had since I had been in that area.
You've got 20 acres, and your security camera can see about 50 feet from your Wi-Fi router. Your gate, your barn, your equipment, all the places you actually need to monitor, they're exactly where your Wi-Fi doesn't reach. That's where Defend security cameras make a lot of sense. They work on cellular, just like your phone. But here's what's clever. They've got an embedded SIM card that automatically connects to the best network in your area. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. It finds whatever's strongest. No choosing providers, no contracts, no hassle. I'm using Defend cameras at my place. You mount it, open the Defend app on your phone, and you're done. 10 minutes. Clear footage, night vision, instant alerts, and here's something you need to know. Defend doesn't sell your data. Not to China, not to tech companies, not to anyone. They work for you, period. Defend your place. Where are some of the places that you've cowboyed?
Oh gosh, I grew up in California and left there when I was 13 and went to high school and college in Oregon. When I left, I dropped out of college, was tired of being in debt and taking loans, and so I went to the ZX in Paisley, Oregon. And when I left there, I went to the Little Horn Ranch in Montana. And then when I left there, I went to the YP in Tuscarora, Nevada. And then YP to Maggie Creek, and then Maggie Creek was outside of Elko, and then left there and went to Winecup Gamble, and then left Winecup Gamble and went to work for a Simplot division in Idaho, and then went back to Winecup Gamble and was there 6 years as cow boss. Then left there and went back to the Little Horn in Montana, and left the Little Horn and went to the Bar Cross Ranch outside Pinedale, Wyoming, and then left there, and here I am in Willow, Oregon.
What was the place that was the hardest to leave?
Oh gosh, they all had wonderful things I loved, whether really liked my string of horses or the country or the community I was part of. And then it all had, downsides. Like Montana was the most resilient grass country I'd ever seen in my life. It was right there on the Crow Indian Reservation. Wonderful, beautiful country, beautiful grass, and you could make mistakes there, and the land was more forgiving, where if you made that same mistake in Nevada, you're setting yourself back 15 years with that landscape trying to recoup, the mistake you had made. But
and when you're talking mistake, you're talking about leaving cattle on a place for too long?
Yeah, overutilizing some of that grass country, or, making a choice like, oh, I have another 3 days, where in hindsight, you're like, I should have moved them 4 days sooner. And, so a week sooner than anticipated type deal. And so it was, it's all trial and error in that Montana country. It could look like a golf course, and you could come off of there and the next year it'd be waist high. And I remember guys talking about trotting out in the morning and the grass being so high that their boots were wet from the dew. And I was like, I'd been in desert country most of my life. And I was like, okay, they're full of it. And I got up there and we trotted
Short
out.
horses.
Yeah. And I got out there and I was like, oh man, they weren't kidding. I mean, just beautiful country, beautiful scenery. And, and it was a challenge with some of the leases we had, and especially being on the Indian reservation, kind of navigating that. But as far as scenery, that was hands down the most beautiful country I'd ever been in. But I'm thankful. I love everywhere I've ever cowboyed.
Yeah.
So
why cowboying? That's a hard job.
Oh gosh. My dad ran ranches, and my grandfather was in cattle and farming, and my great grandfather, same thing, and that's all I've really known. I've had a couple other side gigs, just part-time, but it's always been cowboying. It's the only thing I ever thought I was okay at. And I don't think I could do 9 to 5, where someone's telling you to work until this hour. I'd rather
just work all the hours.
Just work all the hours. And then it's just one of those days that when everything goes right and it's noon, go home. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, we won today. Cool. Yeah. Instead of like, well, it's noon, you have another 5 hours, right. We still need you to do something because you're not paid by the hour. So,
yeah. How do you manage the fatal aspect of it? Like you put so much effort into caring for these livestock, protecting them, feeding them, doctoring them, doing everything that you can so that they can have the very highest quality of life, that they can reach their highest potential as an individual. Mm-hmm. And then a day like today, it can feel casual. It can feel just like work, like any other work. But these animals that you've been caring for so long, they're going to die tomorrow, turn into food. Does that ever sit weird with you?
No, because it's my purpose, right? I wouldn't say it's my passion harvesting these animals. It's the lifestyle that's my passion. But I walked into this, it's all I've known my whole childhood. That's what we did. That when there was a cheeseburger or a steak on our plate as a kid, it was usually like a animal we had sorted out and kept, knowing that we were going to harvest it. And that was going to be our nutrients for the family moving forward. And it was, sometimes it was beef, or we would take an elk or a deer, or, whatever the season may be. And that's what fed my brother, my sisters, my family, and I. And it's just, I just always known that we were going to harvest something, and it's an animal, and, it can feel pain, but I'm not sure it can feel happiness. They can be content, but they're not. You see baby calves run around and buck and play, and, they feel good, but they don't have the same understanding and emotions, I believe, that we do. And I believe they're here to serve a purpose as nutrients for people. And also, the thousands of byproducts from them. But right. I know why I raise them and I raise them a certain way and take care of them with integrity, knowing that when their life is over, I did the best I could for them. And then that also makes myself feel like I'm doing all I can.
I think it is more strange that people can eat beef casually without thinking about any of that than it is to raise beef knowing it.
I think I was talking about it earlier today, there's a disconnect between the public and producers, farmers or fishermen or cattlemen or hog farmers or chicken, anywhere in agriculture. There's such a disconnect that people are so used to just going to the grocery store and getting what they want, going to Whole Foods or Safeway or whatnot, which is fantastic. But there's an entire passion of people that are blood, sweat, and tears into everything that, rising and falling markets across the board and the losses and the struggles with their family. How many times have we helped our families as children and put in a 100-hour week by Thursday? And then, you still got to go. There's still animals need fed, still water needs to go, still got to do fence or check whatever. And I just wish the public knew that there's always going to be a bad rap in everything, a few bad apples. But I think a majority, 90% of producers have the integrity and the character that I'm doing the best I can for the land, for the livestock, and for my community.
Yeah. Especially people who are raising them on range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's not a numbers game at that point, because if you can only exhaust that range resource once,
mm-hmm.
and then you're cooked. It's done. Like it's different from going bankrupt or anything else. Like it's not going to come back in time for you to keep going. So you're using cattle to manage the land, and there's just so many folks that can't comprehend that. They see cattle as just as a negative, as a take.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, I don't know. I'm still trying to reconcile the fact that I share a state with at least 120,000 people who think that we shouldn't hunt or fish or participate in animal agriculture anymore.
So just my personal view is everything in moderation, right? And so
everything?
For the most part, I should say. I guess, we talk about hunting, right? And as a producer, especially here, this county better than I do, but most producers here, livestock producers, battle elk, right? The elk are grazing on their ground. That forage could be used for cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And as a producer financially, it'd be great if all the elk left and all that forage was left for cattle. But in my mind, it's like, okay, why are the elk here? What are they utilizing? Go see what they're eating. Let's try to knock out the grasses that they don't enjoy and, gain the grasses that they do, because obviously ruminants are going to chase that grass.
Mm-hmm.
And do I want 1,000 elk on my pasture? Absolutely not, because I don't want to fix that much fence and battle the forage. But I do think in moderation, like the elk deserve to be here just as much as anything, the deer, the bears, the coyotes, and the cattle, the sheep, everything has a spot, but it's in moderation for what the landscape can sustain.
Yeah, if where you're at in particular, if you didn't have any elk, that would be an indication that something had gone horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Probably multiple things. That's always multiple things. But we really look at the wildlife here on the Sixth Ranch as an indicator of health. Like,
mm-hmm.
if we've got lots of wildlife, we're doing a good job. Like, we're doing a good job with cattle. If we are down on wildlife, we need to take a real hard look at our grazing management plan, on what we're doing with our timber, what's happening with the river. We got to look at everything and be like, what's changed, and did we cause it? If we did not cause it, is there something we can do to make it a little bit better?
Mm-hmm.
And can we use cattle to do that and turn that into healthy protein for people to consume?
Absolutely. They're a tool. And you look at, say, a pasture that you've moved cattle out of, that, okay, we've utilized this to the percentage that we desire. We're going to roll them to the next pasture. And odds are, as soon as you move them, that deer, like the whitetail, especially on these river bottoms, are going to move in, because that fresh, soft, young grass is coming up. Those cows have either eaten the decadent old feed or knocked it down with traveling. And so give an opportunity for that young feed to come up, and the deer are going to graze on that. And you look at birds, right? How many times, I'm sure you've noticed when you drive through a pasture and there's birds sitting on a cow's back, pegging at the little bugs on there, or the cows defecate, and then all those flies and everything go to that, and those birds are just having a heyday. So, there's a whole process that it's healthy when it's done in moderation with a conscience for the entire landscape.
Yeah. Did you always know that?
No, as a young kid growing up, I just wanted to ride a horse and rope something. And then, when I struck out on, as a young guy and left home and was kind of traveling around, it was more of...
Were you rodeoing?
No, I rode ranch broncs for a while, and I wouldn't say I was good. I was just, I rode quite a few of them, but so big that I was strong enough that if I thought I was getting bucked off, I could just pull their head up and get sat back down. But I was by no means good. But it's just when I left home and went to cowboying and bouncing around, it was more of what's the next adventure?
Yeah.
And then as I got older and more of a leadership role, it's like my choices and my actions have a direct reflection on the landscape. So I really need to be serious about that. Same as my choices have a direct reflection on my family. Like it's serious business. So I'm going to do the best I can. And it's some of it's trial and error. Like I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm going to try this hoping for the best. And if it doesn't work, then I put a mental note down like this didn't work. Moving forward, let's try, a different avenue. Yeah. And if it works, it's like, oh, wow, nobody's done this, or I've never tried this and it worked. Maybe in this setting it's fantastic, and in another it's not. But I'm not going to, I don't think agriculture, especially my life, is cookie cutter. Like there's obviously boundaries that we all know, but I'm always going to try something different, try something new. And I've always had people around me that have encouraged that, whether it was horsemanship or roping or stockmanship or just paying attention to the landscape or the people around you. Like, how do you nurture all that and grow all that and make it better? So
I had every opportunity to fall in love with roping growing up. We had Corrientes, we had an arena, we had great horses, and we of course had to rope just for the nature of the job, right? But I never liked it. It was never a thing like, oh, I can't wait to go rope something. But so many cowboys, especially buckaroos, man, that is the peak of existence, is getting the chance to shake out a loop and stick it on something.
Oh, everywhere I've been. I mean, I've traveled around a little bit, and I've helped I was down in Texas for almost 2 weeks helping those guys with spring works, and I had so much fun. And cowboys, I mean, I mainly know the buckaroo culture, and I went to Texas, and those guys treated me first class. Like, they were good to me. They all kind of was nice. Wondering who I was, like, what's going on with this guy. But, man, I rode some nice horses. And
you just say, hey, I'm Mark. I'm from California. Yeah. I like dressing like this.
Yeah. Is there tofu in this? And it's this vegan chili. And no, I mean, it's cowboys are the same across the board. They want to have fun when they're young. They want to be a little wild. But the cowboy culture that I was exposed to, and I'm fortunate enough, was always pushing for, making each other a better horseman or a better roper or a better stockman, or, who can ride the bucking horse, which was never me, but, who can rope the fastest, or who never misses, or who does the best job. And it's when you're around guys who want to be better, you become better. And you just keep going and keep building. And Texas, there's always that age-old, Nevada buckaroo versus a Texan cowpuncher. And I mean, that argument will never end. But it's all across the board is people taking care of cattle to the best of their abilities.
Yeah.
And it's a different hat, it's a different saddle, different rope, whatever. But everywhere you go, from Florida to Montana, Texas, California, it's cowboys doing the best they can to raise the best beef they can, and usually to make the best horses they can.
What's the difference between a buckaroo and a cowboy?
Well, I guess buckaroo is more about what they look like in the mirror most of the time.
Gosh, drives me crazy, dude. The buckaroo fashion show drives me crazy.
So we still pulled a wagon in Nevada. We had a team of horses pull a hoodlum with our bedrolls, and then we pulled a cook wagon out. We'd stay out 4 to 6 weeks, and I had some great guys work with me, very fortunate. And we had a grouchy old cook who was a good egg too, pretty good camp cook. But those guys would show up and they thought I was going to be like, throw the big loops and go slow and all that. I was like, we have 3,500 calves to brand in 6 weeks. Like, let's go, and it was pretty fast, knocking them down. But I had great mentors in that aspect as far as how to do things, and I'm not sure I did them justice, but I tried. And like the buckaroo, when people think of buckaroo, it's, big flat hat and a big wild rag and lots of silver, which, I mean, I love silver bits, and I wore a flat hat and a big wild rag for a long time. But it was more of wanting to make nice horses. But you look everywhere, and there's somebody riding a dang nice horse that watch a cow or burn to a calf to rope it or something like that. And I mean, you can have all the silver in the world, and it doesn't mean that it's a nice horse. I mean, I think silver's cool, but there was guys in Texas riding a plain Jane bit and split reins that horse would flat get after a cow. And I was watching that, and I was like, that guy, that guy makes a nice horse. I don't care how he holds his reins. I don't care how he rides. He made that horse dang nice. And there's guys in Nevada do the same thing. Their style's just different. Yeah. But I think it got commercialized a little too much.
So flamboyant.
It is. And I mean, it was loud colors and wild, but cowboys are wild no matter where you go, Australia, Argentina, or the States. But it was the buckaroos, the commercialization of it and the dreaminess of it. Like nobody thought of, a Texas cowpuncher. It was like, the buckaroo, the elite of the elite. And then you get around some of those guys and some of them are dang good cowboys, like top of my list of people I respect. Of course, yeah. And then some of them I'm like, man, why don't you just go sit in the pickup? And I've been to brandings where a guy show up in a t-shirt and tennis shoes and outrope all of us, and I was like, oh man, that guy's a hand.
You got to be cautious of the guy with some lines in his face that gets up on a horse at a branding and is wearing a baseball cap. Mm-hmm. And if he pulls a little white cotton glove out of his pocket, like, go ahead and let him stay on the horse all day. He's going to keep bringing you calves.
Yeah, there's good cowboys no matter where you go. It's just different styles. And bouncing around taught me that if you just sit back and wait 5 or 10 minutes and kind of see what the flow is, then you can fit in. But no matter where you go, if you puff out your chest and think you're top dog, that you'll get humbled very, very quickly.
Of course.
So,
a rancher I worked for in Montana, great guy. He wouldn't hire anybody who wore a cowboy hat. It was a real windy country. Wouldn't hire somebody who smoked cigarettes. And he said they spend all their time either chasing their hat down or smoking cigarettes. And he also, it got 40 below zero there. I wore gloves plenty when I was working for this guy, but he never would. And he'd give me a hard time for wearing gloves. And one of his lines was that the only thing you can do well with gloves on is piss your pants. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever been in a real cold country, then that would make sense to you. If you haven't, then that probably doesn't make any sense to you.
Oh man, in Montana, I think it was 35 below for a week. Yeah. And I remember my eyelashes freezing together, and we all had beards. Well, we had to wear wild rags, scarves over our nose. But the condensation, if we pulled it down from our mustache to our chin hair, would connect. And then if you were to talk, it would rip out your nose hairs, and then your eyes would water, and then that would freeze. And so the whole time everybody's talking real muffled, just trying to get through the day. And then you have so many clothes on that, if you did get bucked off, you're just landing on a mattress anyways. But it was snow, and you just ride your gentlest horse or try to for a while, and always a challenge.
And when I started the high school rodeo team here. We'd had one in the past and it had gone away, and I started it back up again because I wanted a rodeo in the springtime. And even then, because I was guiding backcountry horse and mule trips and stuff, if I had a horse buck with me here on the ranch or guiding, I'd just get off. You can go buck on your own. I don't need to be a participant in this. But at the same time, I was riding bareback, and it was the same thing that you're talking about. I was way too big for these horses. I was really strong. So I'd get off to the side a little bit, and I'd keep myself connected to that horse, but he couldn't manage having all that body weight off to one side, so he couldn't buck right and end up having disasters in the arena all the time. I was never any good at it, but I just so badly didn't want to be a timed event guy that I just refused. I just refused, and spent too much time talking trash about bull riders, so that was not going to be the thing. I was way too big for that. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, the split between rodeo and cowboying, and we've watched that division get wider and wider and wider. And it's another thing that I think is interesting, that people who aren't connected to it probably think that rodeo is cowboying, and it's an athletic event. It's an entertainment industry thing anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are some guys that cross over. You look at Derek Begay and Coulter Todd. They're both team ropers that are born and raised cowboys, hands on the ranch and in the arena. But there's plenty of those guys that you see plenty of stories of guys that have grew up in the city and wanted to ride bulls or wanted to ride saddle broncs, and they found somebody to mentor them, and now they're wonderful at it. But if they were to get on a horse and have to go gather the mountain and bring home 500 pair, they would have no idea what was going on.
Right. They don't know the difference between ivermectin and LA 200.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're dang good at what they do, and respect to them. And I think the old adage is, cowboys, you're living a horseback with cattle and stuff like that. And to me, those rodeo guys, they're still cowboys to a degree. They're still making their living with a horse or a bull in some manner. And, kudos to them. I think some of them guys are, awesome rock stars. And I think it's more the character and the integrity and how they present themselves. They're wild, but obviously, if some gal needs help putting her groceries up, that's more the character, the integrity goes with it, not just the horses and the cattle.
That's a good point. You're still going to have that culture as well. Mm-hmm. I remember I was guiding these just trail rides at the lake, because we do that between the bigger trips, and it was during the rodeo, and some of the cowboys that were in town had come up there, and all the guides, recognized these guys, and we were a little bit starstruck, and offered them a free ride just on a little hour trip. And one of them was Billy Etbauer. I think he was a 5-time national champion saddle bronc rider. I might be getting that number wrong, but really incredible saddle bronc rider, one of the best of all time. And he was on this dude horse that acted up like every dude horse does. And he spurred that thing from its ears to its flanks about 18 times in 1 second. And I've never seen that horse act more right, But I'm pretty sure he's a cowboy too. I think he'd spent plenty of time on a ranch as well.
Agreed. All those Etbauer boys had,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I didn't know it. I just figured by the way he acted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of guys still that, you think 50 years ago, they were all cowboys that went to town to see if they were good or to chase that money. And now it's a business and a career. And, you have sponsors and everything like that, which kudos to them.
Yeah. Great.
It's just, awesome. I had no desire to chase any of that.
Yeah.
So,
will you be able to do this your whole life?
No.
Yeah.
I hope so. I honestly didn't think I'd make it to 30. Like, I figured something would horse flip over on me or go down a badger hole or whatever. It's kind of the premonition I had, but here I am. And I think as I got older, my desires changed. When I was in my 20s, I just wanted to be big outfits, ride all the horses, see the big country. And now it's more like, am I actually making a difference with my family and with the landscape? And do I enjoy my daily life? Mm-hmm. And I've been in leadership roles for the last, 12 years. And so the stress of all that kind of built up. And now where I'm at now, I'm much happier. I have more of a family life. When I go home, I don't feel weighted. And that means more to me than to sit on a horse every day. Like, I love the riding. I love roping. I love being a horseback, but sometimes it's nice to just, go fix some fence or to take my daughter to go put out mineral and salt and just spend that time with her like my dad did with me, and so those are the memories that were more what I'm concerned about, making. And I'm sure one day I'll be, too broken up to ride very much or to do something, but I'm going to try like hell to keep doing this as long as I can.
Tell me about the best horse you ever had.
Oh gosh, I've had some nice ones that weren't because of me. They were naturally good horses. I had a really nice horse come from Twisselman's. His name was Martini, and I really liked him. He would really watch a cow. It was super fun to rope on. And I had a play gun mare I called Grace that my fiance would ride quite a bit, and that was a really nice mare. Like, I could put her on, and that mare would take really good care of her. And then if I got on her, she'd really work a gait and slide and spin, and it was really fun working cattle on her. But I've had horses that were good horses that had a job that they were really good at, and they weren't great at anything else. Mm-hmm. Like, if we had to trot 40 or 50 miles, you knew this horse had no bottom in him. He was going to keep going. Or if you had a horse that you were going to doctor calves all day on a meadow for scours, that horse would drop your hand and you could rope something, and he was always going to be in the right spot. And so,
what's the farthest you've ridden in a day?
Oh gosh, I've never measured it, but probably 65 miles in one day on one horse.
That's a long day.
Yeah. But that place in Nevada I was at, one of them, there wasn't a whole lot of roads to trailer in on. And so we trot out, 3:30 in the morning, and then it'd be 15-mile, 20-mile trot till we even got to the cows, and then have to gather 70,000 acres of mountainous country to the other end. And so you're just riding the heck out of them horses, and you get to the other end and count the cows through the gate and get them on water, and then you got to turn around and trot another however many miles back to the trailer wherever it's parked. And that's why, most of those guys, we had 8 to 10 horses. So if you rode a horse, he had a week to rest and recover and then go again. Because if you had a horse that was kind of a knothead, 2 or 3 days of that, and they were tired. They would take it. So
yeah. Huh. You talked about being cow boss. Talk me through, like, say you're out there for a month and a half, living out of a chuck wagon. You got another wagon with everybody's bedrolls and pieces of kit. Talk me through the titles of the jobs and how many cowboys are out there doing that work.
So I usually had, at that particular position, I think I had 4 or 5 full-time guys. And then usually I would hire some seasonal guys, like hire guys on just to brand or just for fall works. We were waiting and processing. But when we go out to brand, I'd probably hire another 4 or 5 guys, and then I'd hire a cook. And so we'd go out there, and the seasonal guys, I got paid by the day. My full-time guys were salary. But we'd go out there, and we usually trail the horses out. And so you have 10 guys, and they all have 7 to 10 horses. We'd have 70 to 100 horses out there on the ropes. And we call the ropes as they jingle the horses into a single rope strand set up in a circle, and they all line up with their chest against the rope. And then the cowboys call out the horse they want for that day or the next day. And then usually the cow boss or the jigger boss ropes them out. But the hierarchy, you have your cow boss who's the, in charge of everything. And then jigger boss or straw boss or wagon boss is usually second in command. And then you have your lead off, and it's all seniority, who's been there the longest and who knows the country. And then all the way down, usually the youngest guy is the greenest, and he's usually wrangling the horses in every day. And then you have your cook, and it's 3 meals a day. Usually we'd have breakfast at 3:30 and then saddle horses and trot out. And then sometimes we'd take a lunch with us, like on the back of the pickup. And then by the time we got back to camp, it'd be 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then cook would have supper for us. But he was, we were gone for 10 hours in the middle of the day, so he had a chance to catch up on sleep throughout the day and, get the meal prep for that night. But we'd be out there in teepees and trot out and hopefully gather enough cows. And, sometimes you'd gather 100 cows and you'd brand those cows, and sometimes you'd gather 300 cows, and you're like, oh, shoot, a few too many. It's going to be a long day, boys. Like, get ready, And there was a kid worked for me from Texas, and a good guy. I really enjoyed him. And he showed up, and he asked, he's like, can I tie off? And I was like, I don't care if you tie hard and fast. Like, taking care of cattle is taking care of cattle. If you abuse a cow, we're going to have a talk. But that's if someone's roping with a riata and they're buckaroo and they abuse the animal, we're going to have a talk, But we get out there, and it was about his 4th or 5th day. And he goes, do you guys do anything but trot? Like, that's all we've been doing. And I was like, well, yeah. It's, big country. We just don't have the grass like other places. So.
You can lope for a minute if you want to.
Yeah. And like I said, he was a good egg. He was just like, in Texas, you gather 500 acres and then you go to the Allsups and eat a chimichanga and a Dr. Pepper and then go to the next pasture, and nothing against that. Just out there, like when you leave the truck, you may not see it for another 10, 12 hours. Yeah. So be ready.
What was for breakfast?
Oh gosh, whatever the cook made. I told those guys once, they were complaining about the food. I said, it's easier to find another cowboy than it is to find another cook. So be careful, And I've been around some wonderful ranch cooks, and I've been around some that I was like, I'm going to lose a little weight on this wagon, But that cook, he did a great job. His name was Skinner, and there's guys that didn't like his cooking, but he was probably the cleanest wagon cook I'd ever been around. And he wore a kilt and no shirt most of that wagon, and was absolutely hilarious. Had been in like the circus, and then it was like a master blacksmith and all these stuff, but he was always entertaining. But most of the time it was, we'd have steak and eggs or bacon and eggs or pancakes and eggs and hash browns, or he'd make omelets or, like a breakfast casserole. And he made really good biscuits. And so we'd have, I told the guys, better put a biscuit in your pocket. It's going to be a long day, and he took care of us. There was always plenty of food, and he always made, my deal was every supper I wanted a dessert. Like I don't, cookies or cake or brownies or whatever. And so after every meal, every supper, he'd have a dessert. And so that way those guys could have a little sweet treat, and we'd get ice cream out there every now and then. But, we're so far from town that it only happened a couple times. But
a lot of Dutch oven type stuff.
Yeah, he was with that. We had a cook wagon that was similar to like a taco truck, but it just pulled behind a pickup.
Okay.
And so it had an oven and a griddle and burners and a fridge and a freezer inside.
Running off propane.
Correct. And then he did a lot of Dutch oven cooking too.
Yeah.
And so just depended on what he decided to make that day. But I did all the grocery shopping with him probably a few days before wagon went out. So we'd, pile up a pickup and a trailer just full of groceries, and away we'd go.
The blacksmith guys love kilts. Mm-hmm. What's the deal with that? I know a bunch of knife makers and guys that seemingly don't have a connection to Scotland at all that wear kilts.
Well, this guy did. His name was, everybody called him Skinner, but his real name was David Collins, and he was a Scotsman through and through.
Yeah.
And anybody who was a kilt knows that he was a traditionalist in the kilt aspect. And so if anybody's processing that, it was a fact. I can guarantee it. And anybody who was on those wagons will agree with me. So,
did you ever have women on crews like that?
Not on the wagon. It was a man camp deal. Yeah. A lot of the guys that worked for me were married, and their wives would come out and have like supper with us, and we would kind of coordinate that with the cook. So he knew that, hey, we'll have 4 or 5 extra guests tonight. The ladies are coming out or the kids are coming out. And so he would make, enough food to accommodate them. But I never had ladies stay out on wagon, but I've had women work for me before and first class, but on wagon, I never had women out there.
Yeah. It's a tough dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the social aspect of it can be a little challenging.
Yeah. I had a couple gals. The first 2 gals I hired, Bailey and Megan, were first class. I had them in the bunkhouse. They had the bunkhouse had 3 studio apartments. So each room had its own bathroom and then a set of bunk beds in that room and its own little kitchenette. Mm-hmm. And those 2 gals were wonderful. Kudos to them. I mean, they worked hard and they were real transparent about their abilities and their lack thereof. And I would have hired them back in a heartbeat. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'd trust my little sister with any cowboy job in the world. She's fantastic. That's not what it's about at all. I was just more so curious because 6 weeks in a camp like that be a little bit rough just from the social side of things.
Yeah, I agree. I've been around some women that I thought were, to this day, I still have a lot of respect for, like hands that I look up to and their abilities, but you get just the dynamic of the sexes out there isolated and you're in the confines and then you're dealing with personalities and emotions, both men and women, and trying to control that in the leadership aspect and manage the personalities it's tough enough with just a man camp that adding that dynamic, I think, would have made things harder for me. So it would have been like either hiring an all-woman crew or an all-male crew, which I don't care which one. I just needed the help.
Yeah. So when you were branding under circumstances like that, obviously there's no pin. How do you keep those cattle together?
So we would take out a panel wagon.
Oh, you would?
Yeah. And so we would set up a panel trap, and then I would gather those pastures. I would have like one centralized panel trap, or if I was moving through to the next pasture, we would have panels set up on a fence line, and I would gather, say, 150 cows into these panels and then split off 2/3 of the cows through the gate into the next pasture. And then as we were branding calves, everyone that was branded and inoculated, castrated would go out into the new pasture and find its mom and go out. And so that way, when I was done gathering that pasture, I knew I'd got everything, barring, a gate hadn't been left open. But some of those pastures, if we were branding out there, we would just set up a centralized panel trap, or sometimes we just throw them in the corner of a fence and then brand them right there, or even road deer them where there's, 7 or 8 guys surrounding them, holding everything in a flat, and then a couple ropers and a couple ground crew, and just go to branding. And then when you're done, turn them loose and let them go back to their country.
How is the feral horse dynamic or the Mustang wild horse dynamic down there in Nevada?
So the few places I worked, we didn't have that much of a problem. The government had kind of been on top of that and whatnot. South of where I was at was a tough dynamic. I seen a lot of those horses, and I understand the emotional connection the public has. Like, I love horses, but to see animals starve to death and drought to death, that's probably one of the most cruel things I've ever seen happen to an animal. Like, if you don't get a lump in your throat when you see that, it's tough. And everybody wants to save everything, which I can appreciate, but it's in moderation. Again, do I think we should eradicate the wild horse herds entirely? No. But do I think they're mismanaged currently? Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got a podcast coming up with a gentleman who's going to be talking about the wild horse situation on Warm Springs Indian Reservation here in Oregon. My understanding, I don't want to get into it too far right now, but that they've got about 5,000 head and they're increasing at a rate of 20% per year. That turns into a problem
real fast.
I mean, it already is one. It already is one. But since we can no longer use horses for meat in the United States, it's become an even bigger problem, and it just continues to escalate. But kind of to your point, the people that care about these horses, yeah, I do too. Trust me, I do. But there are forms of compassion that have a foundation of a misunderstanding of the totality of the circumstances that turn into an even deeper cruelty than the thing they're fighting against. And yeah, seeing an animal die of thirst, that's tough, but it stays. They starve to death, it's weeks, it's months. It's really bad for a long time. And it's happening to wild horses in Oregon, in Nevada, everywhere that there's wild horses, because they overpopulate and they'll eat themselves out of house and home and end up eating stuff that they can't digest and tangling up their guts, and it's horrible.
And it's the nature of the beast too, because everybody thinks of the wild horse as this majestic, long-maned, slick-haired, beautiful animal. And, you know, I've seen those animals and they are beautiful when they're managed correctly.
Yeah.
What they don't see is I can count every rib on an animal, or if a stud has his band of mares and a mare throws another stud colt, the father, the stud, the main stud will kill that stud colt because it's going to try to run him off one day.
Right.
And then pretty soon all there is inbreeding unless another stud comes in and kills that stud and then takes over that band. And so you see these horses that are inbred and starving to death and all this, and they haven't been managed, and the public never sees that. Yeah. They see the majestic picture of the two stallions fighting and their, you know, long flowing mane, which is it cool looking? Absolutely. But they're showing you what they want you to see.
Right. Yeah. I was hunting in central Nevada with my buddy Adam Hutchison. We were up over 10,000 feet and we were surviving. You know, we had very little water, not a lot of food. We were just figuring it out. And there was a stud horse up there way up high that looked like Black Beauty. I mean, it was gorgeous. It was shiny. And I mean, it was the poster child of wild horses. And the rest of them, like, they've got eyeballs coming out of their shoulders. Like, there's some pretty weird inbred horses down there. But again, it's a hard thing to explain to people who have such a strong emotional connection with the idea of the animal.
Well, I mean, so the wild horse program, you see these, I mean, back in the remount days for the military, a lot of these guys were like, okay, well, we're going to raise thousands of horses and sell them to the military. Or there was ranchers that in the wintertime didn't need their horses except for their handful of teams for feeding, would turn everything out, and they would buy a good stud, kick it out, and then every spring everybody gathered their horses in. Well, then it got to nobody went and gathered those horses, so then they became feral. And then they have these people that it's like they turn a dog loose on, you know, a forest thinking it's going to take care of itself. Well, you can't take an animal that only knows a pin and hay and turn it loose in the desert and think it's going to survive. And then pretty soon there's all this, you know, there's foxtrotters mixed with Clydesdales. It's mixed with, you know, something else. And then it's like, oh, this is a Mustang. Well, no, that's not a Mustang.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you see a Mustang, they have a head like a watermelon and a butt like a mouse, you know, they're uglier than heck in my opinion, which I'm sure I'll upset some people, but I've rode a couple Mustangs that I thought were good horses, but compared to the genetics we have today in the cow horse business, they didn't compare.
Yeah, it's the rare version. The Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center up there in Bridgeport, California, they're using, I think they're using quite a few Mustangs that are coming out of those programs, and I hope that they're cherry picking horses, mules out of there that can stand up to that task, because logistically that will always be important. There are places that a pack animal can go that nothing can go that is mechanized that man has ever built, right? There's a real task and purpose there, and that's the reason that the Marines still train with it. But I'm sure they've got some shitters in there too that they probably wish were back in the Nevada desert.
I mean, most of them have, for centuries now, that they have never worn shoes, and so their feet are just harder than heck, and they are just gritty, and they have their strong points. But as far as like the pride of a cowboy, that's most of them aren't going to meet that qualification, but they're not bad animals.
Yeah. What do you think cowboying is going to look like for the next generation? Do you think there's going to be great big outfits that are eating out of a cook wagon from a shirtless Scotsman for a month and a half at a time and riding and roping and talking about whether it's better to be tied hard and fast or using a rawhide riata? Or, is it going to be something where, these cattle are all going to have collars and have, electronic fences and managed by satellites? And are we going to have, robot drone cowboys out there? What's it going to look like for the next generation?
It'll change. It's changed every generation. There's the big outfits are less and less. I think I was the last guy to run a wagon there at that one outfit in Nevada. And there's a couple still that run a wagon there, but the next generation, I bet it fizzles out. And there'll always be the diehard guys that want to be a part of that. But my experience as these younger guys show up, it's more, not all of them, but some of them, it's more about, I want to be a cowboy, but I don't want to do the cowboy things. And it's, it's not an easy life, and it's not great. And a lot of it's hard, and they don't want to deal with that. But there's a lot of these young guys that are just hands down amazing hands, that have really taken it to heart that they want to be good hands. But the next generation, I doubt there's horse-drawn wagons anymore, other than maybe just to please themselves, somebody wanting to try it out. I hope they do. But I think about the guys before me, I remember the big change was horse trailers. Those older guys when I was young talking about like, oh, we never had a horse trailer here until the 80s.
Right. They just jump their horses in the back of a pickup.
Or just trot.
Or just ride them.
And then they would just move camp. They just move the chuck wagon and everything and move camp. And I think the horse trailers really changed everything. And I think this, virtual fencing is going to change a lot. I think there'll always be a need for somebody to be a horseback with cow sense and understand what's going on. And I think the amount of people that understand gathering big country with lots of cattle and how to work those large groups of cattle is going to continue to dwindle. I just don't think there's a necessity for it like there used to be. I wish there was. Like, I'll always have a special place in my heart for those memories I have on those big outfits. But I think as family ranches continue to dwindle and the survivors, it's how do we financially keep our head above water? How do we manage this? And you look at all these job postings now, they want a guy who can ride and rope and irrigate and weld and mechanic and operate everything, and work 9 days a week. And nothing against those people. They just need that jack of all trades to keep their head above water. So it's like, you may not be a great cowboy, and you may not be a great mechanic, and you may not be a great welder, but you can do all of them. And that's what we need. And the necessity for just a straight up cowboy, I hope it's always there, but I think it's going to continue to get smaller and smaller, and the virtual fencing, I have mixed emotions on that. And
how so?
I think I've been trying to research it, and I don't have my direct answer yet. I think the idea of virtual fencing, I was like, okay, for somebody, you think of the guy that's got 100 cows and he needs to kick them out in the summertime so he can focus on haying and getting his winter forage put up. But if he has these virtual fencing, he doesn't have to go take a four-wheeler or a horse or a pack horse and get around this fence. He can just set that virtual fencing in. These cattle are happy. He knows their water. And then when he knows that they're out of feed, just open it up into the next virtual fence, which somebody who doesn't do that, probably 3 days a week, somebody needs to ride through those cows and make sure there's water and the fences are up. And, if it's public ground like Forest Service or BLM, somebody didn't leave a gate open And then the virtual fencing is he'll know if there's a depredation or a death because that collar sends a signal if it hasn't moved in X amount of hours. And I think that's, it's got some good things, but myself, it's the tracking of everything, right? Because they'll be able to track when that animal was brought to headquarters, eventually when that animal was processed. Did it get these shots that they say it did? Well, how do we know you got that one? It says on here that that animal was left out after processing was done. And according to this GPS, it was moved directly to the herd down the road, not brought to headquarters and processed. And I think it's going to be more of a micromanagement through the government of what's being done versus the integrity of the operator.
I've seen glimpses of this technology coming, throughout my life. When I was in college, I went and visited this Mennonite farm. And this is about 20 years ago, I guess now. Not Mennonite, Hutterite farm in Montana. And they had shipped all of their milk cows. And every time they put their head in the stall, that cow basically logged in. And they could tell how much it ate, how much it drank, and how much milk it produced. I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Where does this go? When I was in South Africa last time, and they're putting collars on these rhinos, and if their heart rate changes, then a drone automatically gets dispatched to that animal to see if it's getting run by dogs or a poacher. And then rangers are right there following it. And these are still early days on this stuff. I'm really curious to see where it goes, because all this makes that animal a lot more expensive, right? So does it matter to you as a consumer enough that you're going to pay an extra 30% per pound of beef? I don't know, but it's for sure going to cost the producer more, and we're barely holding on. Like, we don't get to make this more expensive for us and not charge more for a pound of beef. So I find that dilemma to be a very real problem as people talk about these technologies, and then the first pistol they want to pull is subsidies, and that's not great. Now you're dependent upon a revenue source that you can't count on year after year, and it would just be better if we could make it work by raising grass and letting cattle eat it until they're big enough, and then killing the cattle and selling them for enough that we can keep on doing it.
I 100% agree, and I guess the traditionalist in me, when you start taking away stockmanship and the cowman and reading a cow and understanding what's going on, not just in a pivot or in a small meadow, but on the landscape, like what are they naturally doing, and visually seeing it. I'm not saying the information and the tracking from these collars won't help, but you have to be out there. You have to be doing it. And it's going to take away the cowman aspect of it, the knowing what you're doing, being out there, seeing it, reading the cow, being in the right spot.
And you can lose those skills in a generation.
Oh, hands down. And I think, there's guys that are improving every generation, and then there's a majority of us that are getting, lesser every generation. And it breaks my heart knowing that.
It just depends in what area,
Agreed.
Like you've got strengths that your dad couldn't have imagined, right? And then he's got skills that you don't need, right? Because if you needed them, you'd get them.
Yep.
So it just changes. I think our capabilities change based off the tools that we have.
And there's so much information now, right? You think of, our dads, like growing up, it's whatever somebody told them or what everybody said, hey, why don't you just watch and learn? You know what I mean? Like, open your eyes. And now there's YouTube. Like, if I want to learn how to braid a riata, I get on YouTube and there's 1,000 videos of how to go through that process.
Right.
And so the knowledge that's out there for anybody wanting to get involved, there's no excuse for not at least having a foot in the door on some of it, which it's fun for me to get on YouTube or watch these reels of these young guys or young ladies like working a horse or roping. I'm like, man, that's awesome. I'd love to be around people like that, and just all that information right at our fingertips. But it's a blessing and a curse all rolled together, because now, it's like I'm going to leave my phone in the pickup while I go ride so I can enjoy this ride. And as I'm riding back to the pickup, I'm like, I wonder how many missed calls I have. Like, what's happened, And most of the time, nothing. Yeah. But these people, I see these young guys, they have these phones and we'll be gathering cows and they're talking to somebody. Or, they're Snapchatting a picture to somebody. And I'm like, I just need you to put that phone away for like 4 hours and then your heart's content, knock it out. But I need you mentally present while we're doing this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You can't be in two places at once when the stakes are high like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun to watch. I'm sure that there's no way that we can imagine where it's going to go in one direction or another.
Yeah.
But when we're both old and broken and we're the guys that are sitting outside the cafe waiting for it to open so that we can go in and talk about how things used to be.
How they should be. Yeah. Exactly. I'm already there. I'm just not actually that old, but I feel it sometimes. But it's fun to talk to those old guys.
Yeah.
For me, it is.
Yeah. They're the best.
I mean, you think of how many, like on the irrigation system there, like I'm picking my brain. I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Why am I not getting water where I need to? And I have all these old neighbors and I'm like, why don't I just go ask them? Mm-hmm. Like, how do I push this water to the end of this as I need to? And
they were there when the ditch was dug.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they're a wealth of knowledge still.
Yeah.
They may not have a strong back, but they have the information that'll dang sure help. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in constant fear every time I leave this place that a neighbor is going to stop me and want to talk about a ditch. That's my greatest source of anxiety.
Yeah. Just need a side-by-side and an old border collie dog and you can putt around at 3 miles an hour. You got it. But.
Well, dude, I appreciate it. If people want to try to buy some of this delicious grass-raised, grass-fed beef that you're producing, where do they find it? How do they get a bite of it in their mouth?
So Carmen Ranch LLC, you can Google us. We have our website. You can purchase beef and pork and chickens and lamb all through the website. And so Carmen Ranch, CARMAN Ranch.
Nice.
So
awesome. And are you still in some restaurants? Are you still in like Burgerville and stuff like that?
So right now, quite a bit of our beef goes to Portland and gets distributed. And then here locally, as you know, we have M. Crow and Range Riders and Toronto Gravity Brewery. So
yeah. And folks, just as a general rule, if you look at a menu and you see a ranch's name underneath the description of that burger, don't order the chicken. Like, just support these folks.
100%.
It's important that this keeps going. It's important for the landscape. It's important for the wildlife. It's important for our American culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, dude, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends. I'm extremely proud of how intelligent, engaged, and adventurous this audience is. Original music for the Six Ranch podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.